what drives you to excel in such diverse fields and how do you balance it all?
I always feel a person must pursue his passions. Now, coming to stock market, both of my parents come from the financial field
I
of
think it's the genes.
yes.
What has been the most challenging or rewarding case you've worked on so far?
Coming to one of the most complex and challenging cases which I've had was a landlord and tenant dispute. The landlord passed away. The legal heirs started fighting over the will. That daughter entered into a criminal conspiracy to sell off the property.
Ankur, between the courtroom drama and the stock market's ups and downs,
Everything is an adrenaline rush.
like, have you catch yourself wanting to shout out objection while watching any of the financial news?
Unfortunately, in the financial news, if I shout, no one is going to hear me.
Do you think that police officers ever wish they could trade places us with us lawyers even for a day?
Is that the special power which the police has, which lawyers envy, is that they have the power to arrest anyone, and I don't have to focus on lengthy court arguments.
Right. You don't have to go for that tariq pe tariq of clashes between police and advocates making headlines.
Clash of egos between advocates and police. Who's more powerful between the two? Lawyers feel that we are above them, and the police feels that we are above them. In the police station, they are the king, and in the courts, the advocates are the king.
Welcome to our podcast. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Ankur Malik, a distinguished attorney practicing across civil, criminal, and corporate law. Mr. Ankur is not only a seasoned practitioner at the High Court of Delhi, but also a stock analyst with a keen understanding of the financial markets. With multiple accolades to his name, including the prestigious Lex Falcon Global Award in 2024, he embodies a relentless pursuit of excellence. We're excited to deep dive into his journey and insights into the legal landscape today. So, everyone, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ankur Malik. Hi, Mr. Ankur. It's great to have you here on the podcast with us. So, how have you been doing today?
Hi, Kriti. A very good evening to all the viewers also. I'm fine, and I hope everyone else is doing fine too.
They're all excited to hear your insights. And personally, I've been really looking forward to this conversation, especially after seeing your impressive track record in both legal and financial worlds. But if you could also tell about our viewers about the whole of your academic and professional journey.
So, Kriti, basically, I did my schooling at Sanskriti School in Chanakyapuri, and I was blessed to be appointed as the head boy in that school. I completed my 12th with commerce and maths. After that, I did my economics honors at Delhi College of Arts and Commerce. Thereafter, I entered into the world of law, where I did my 3-year LLB course at the North Campus Faculty of Law at Delhi University, followed by which I started practicing also, and I also completed my LLM in Corporate and Financial Laws from Jindal Global Law School. And thereafter, currently, I'm even doing my doctorate in law from Golden Gate in San Francisco. So academics and me have always gone together. And professionally, I have worked with a mix of chambers and leading law firms like Luthra and Luthra, AZB Partners, as well as Anand and Anand. And this year onwards, I started my independent practice in South Delhi.
Wow, that's so inspiring for all of us. And I think you've left no stone unturned. And you have had so many feathers attached to your hat. So kudos to you in achieving that. I would, before we deep dive into the serious stuff, I would love to know what drives you to excel in such diverse fields and how do you balance it all?
So, Kriti, whether it's the stock markets and the financial line and law, both are my passion. So I always feel a person must pursue his passions. That's what he excels best in. Now, coming to stock markets, both of my parents come from the financial field. My father is a leading investment banker, and my mother is a chartered accountant. And even my grandfather was a very enthusiastic investor. So, this runs in the family. So, that came naturally to me. And
Oh,
coming to
I
law,
think it's the genes.
yes.
It's in the genes
And
then.
coming to law, again, this was a passion. When I fight for civil rights, when I wear my robes and argue before a judge, this is something also which I dreamt of looking at lawyers on TV. And this is something also which I really wanted to pursue right from school onwards. And maintaining a balance between both of these is not so difficult now, since we have that my portfolio is managed by my parents, and I also look at it day to day basis once in a day or so. And I also look after my law practice. I make sure to keep updated with the latest in the financial world and the legal world simultaneously. So it's very important today's day and age that we are updated.
It's really fascinating to hear like how you juggle these roles, and like given your extensive experience in law and finance, what has been the most challenging or rewarding case you've worked on so far, and how has your approach to legal practice evolved over the years? We would love to hear that.
Coming to one of the most complex and challenging cases which I've had, there was a landlord and tenant dispute at the High Court. And what happened is that this was originally just a tenancy law case. But then what happened is the landlord passed away during the pendency of the case. And then what ensued was an interplay of tenancy, succession, and criminal law. Because what happened was that after the landlord passed away, the legal heirs started fighting over the will, which was left in which one of the daughters was excluded, and that daughter entered into a criminal conspiracy to sell off the property. And then what happened was a series of cases under cheating, forgery, perjury, tenancy law, succession law. Everything was going on together, and we had petitions, appeals, right from the Metropolitan Magistrate Court to High Court to Supreme Court, everything going on together. And what I did was that I brought a settlement, a mutual settlement, which helped to dispose of this case, which would have gone on for years and years. All the parties mutually settled their differences, and everyone was happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what matters, I think. And thank you so much for that insight.
And
So,
coming to
Ankur,
the second part of your question,
mhm,
which was about how the legal
practice
practice
evolved over the years.
evolving over the years. Now, what we are seeing is that the legal practice is totally digitalized. Earlier, you had lawyers who had to maintain large libraries, and there were almaras full of files. Now, everything is becoming electronic and digital. Now, most of the legal research is being done through our legal databases. And now you have lawyers carrying iPads to the court
Mhm.
instead of the huge files which used to be carried earlier. So this has been a change which I've seen over the years, and it's evolving more and more now.
Great, and it's even good for the environment as well, you know.
True.
Great. So, Ankur, between the courtroom drama and the stock market's ups and downs, which one gives you the more of an adrenaline rush, if I can say so?
I think both of them can give. As far as stock markets are concerned, those who do more of day trading in futures and options, there you see the prices fluctuate minute to minute. So that is an adrenaline rush, like a roller coaster ride every minute. And even courtroom dramas, when it comes to cross-examining very interesting witnesses we have to cross-examine,
I'm
or
sure.
final arguments, even navigating through certain applications which we argue, everything is an adrenaline rush.
Like, have you catch yourself like wanting to shout out objection while watching any of the financial news?
Unfortunately, in the financial news, if I shout, no one is going to hear me.
True, true, true. So, Ankur, we all know that there's a bit of a like friendly rivalry, if I can say so, between lawyers and police officers. So, be honest, have you ever had a moment in court where you thought, if only I had a police badge right now, this would have been much easier? And do you think that police officers ever wish they could like trade places us with us lawyers even for a day?
Pretty unfortunately, these confrontations have become ugly also in the past. Like we saw in the Tisazari court a few years back, where there was total havoc between both the sides. And this has been going on since time immemorial. Now, what happens is that the special power which the police has, which lawyers envy, is that they have the power to arrest anyone they feel like. And I also feel sometimes that if I can arrest or encounter my opposite side, then I don't have to focus on lengthy court arguments.
Right, right, right. You don't have to go for that tariq pe tariq.
Yes, I don't have to do tariq
Anyone.
for tariq. Just an encounter or an arrest like a police officers are doing these days, we see in the news.
Because that's what I was coming up to. That we recently had some recent incidents of clashes between police and advocates making headlines. So, from your perspective, what do you think are the underlying causes of these conflicts? And what steps can be taken to improve relations and prevent such, confrontations in the future?
So I'll take both of those questions part by part because it's a bit complex.
Mm-hmm.
I need some time to explain it
Sure.
to
Please,
you.
we have all the time. Yeah.
So what is happening is that there's a clash of egos between advocates and police. Who's more powerful between the two? That is the crux of the issue. Lawyers feel that we are above them, and the police feels that we are above them. In the
Mhm.
police station, they are the king, and in the courts, the advocates are the king. So it depends on who's where and what is the interplay between the two. But frankly speaking, both can't function without each other. The criminal law justice system both complement each other. And coming to a recent incident which was very disturbing in Bengal, just last week, I think, an
Mhm.
advocate was brutally assaulted by a sub inspector who was drunk. Then what happened is that the bar association made a ruckus over it, and then the senior police officials had to take action.
Okay, and why that exactly happened? Like, could you throw some limelight upon it?
From what I heard from the news and from some other fellow advocates in Calcutta High Court, is that the police cop was in a drunken state when he started arguing with the advocate and the client, and then argument resulted into manhandling, and then one thing led to another, and the advocate was brutally assaulted and had to be taken to the nearby hospital. This was clear criminal act.
Oh my God, this is really unfortunate. And now, in situations like this, how can justice play a role? And is there any particular law under which the police officers can be scrutinized for such actions?
See, in this kind of a scenario, the police department takes action. There's departmental action which has to take place. And it's the same criminal law which handles such an incident. The police themselves become an accused in the criminal law justice system, which they themselves are a part of.
Right. Then who is to be blamed then?
I won't blame anyone for it. There are elements which exist in both sides. It's not that the entire police force is bad or the entire legal fraternity is responsible. There are certain elements on both sides which play up, which often creates problems. And it needs to be dealt on a case to case basis.
Right, I'm sure. I'm sure. So that's really insightful, Ankur. It sounds like there's a lot of room for improvement in communication and understanding between both the sides. So coming on to that, do you think there are any successful examples or any practices from other regions, from other countries that could be implied here, and we can help and we can bridge this gap?
Because there's definitely improvement seen over the past few years, and there's scope for much more. What is the most important fact is that both the police and the lawyers have to understand that they can't do without each other. There must be mutual respect and professional conduct. If both the sides behave professionally, then I don't see these issues cropping up so much. Like I told you, it's the elements which play up who, violate their code of ethics, whether it's the police or the lawyers. This is what creates the confrontation. So
Mhm.
firstly, we have to understand that both can't do without each other
Right.
and both need each other. So both must develop mutual respect towards each other. That is the first and foremost step. Then, of course, there are a few other things which can be done. Regular communication and meetings, holding joint meetings, and utilizing technology to discuss the ongoing cases, having a clear channel of communication for such information sharing. And we can also have cross training of
Right.
police and lawyers where we try to understand what are the problems, roles, challenges, and procedures which each of us are facing.
Right.
It
This is,
helps
I
in
think, this is a
developing a
very good
better
example. Cross
understanding.
training would, I think, definitely help, and can help us bringing in a better outcome. And yeah, so that's really insightful.
And further, there are other things also, like more public education about the role of each of us, whether it's the lawyer and the police. Public should be made aware about how we work together, and it's not a clash of egos happening. And what I also feel is that we should have a standardized procedure and protocol in place, whether it's evidence handling, reporting, and case preparation. So there's no miscommunication between each other. Because ultimately, what happens is that it's the evidence which the police collects which decides the arguments for the prosecution and the defense.
But in this case, like if it's between a call between a police and an advocate, then who is to collect the evidence? Like,
See, the collection of evidence is the responsibility of the police,
right.
and it is the collating of the evidence. Their role stops when they file the charge sheet after collating all the evidence. That is their domain. Now, what the advocates do is both sides. Even the prosecution is an advocate, and even the defense is an advocate. The prosecution relies on the strength of the evidence gathered by the police to present its case. And as a defense lawyer, what I do is that I find loopholes regarding the admissibility of the evidence and also what is the evidentiary value. So on both sides, we use the evidence which is gathered by the police to present our case. So that is that's the main fulcrum of criminal law about the evidence which the police is gathering. That's why I said standard procedures and standard protocols and standard guidelines is the way forward.
Very well put together. I think that's the way we should go about it.
And yes, one last thing which I would like to say, when there is a conflict arising between both the parties, there must be a conflict resolution mechanism which is in place. Whether it's the police who's handled through their superiors, or it's the bar associations which handle the advocates, both play an important role in mitigating such a conflict whenever it arises.
I'm
The
sure.
mechanism between both of them is very important for conflict resolution as well.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. I think we should have, like in other countries, do we follow this? Like we have any association above the police, or is it just missing in India?
See, every country faces its own challenges, sets of problems, and every country follows a solution which fits its own.
So, Ankur, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and insights with us today. It's been fascinating to hear about the interplay between legal practice and law enforcement, and sorry, and your perspective on improving these crucial relationships. So, before we wrap up, is there any final piece of advice or thought that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
What I would like to tell all the listeners is that always fight for your rights, never settle for less than what you deserve. And we as advocates are there for that, that you get what you deserve, because no one is going to give you your rights and entitlements on a platter.
So thank you so much for that great advice and the conversation. We hope our listeners enjoyed this episode as much as we did. And thank you all for tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe for more engaging conversations.
Thank you, Kriti, for having me on the show.
Ankur, it's been a really pleasure for us. And take care and stay tuned. And thank you for joining.